Corruption is one of the key subjects in Professor Timothy Fry's studies. He knows but too well that sharks of corruption swim close to the surface.
There's a saying about corruption in the post-communist world that if you're going to steal, you should steal big.
It's easy as apple pie, right? It's all very simple, just follow the money. Just watch it and don't even try to read the names of these banks. It's simple, just follow the money. See how easy it is? There's nothing difficult, just follow the money.
Because the money was being siphoned off by Lazarenko and Tymoshenko, Ukraine at that time, as they have today, ran up a huge gas debt to Gazprom. And by the end of 1996, they owed RAO Gazprom, which was the primary Russian supplier of natural gas, about $200 million. And so they went through the whole crisis with Russia that they've been through a number of times with respect to Ukraine's debt to Russia for the natural gas. Had the money not gone into Lazarenko's pockets, perhaps they may not have had the debt that they had at that time.
Professor Richard Anderson has been teaching at the University of California for 20 years. He specializes in Russia and other countries of the former USSR, in particular their defense industries. He worked for the US government, namely the CIA.
Now, this isn't something peculiar or special about Ukraine. Until the coming of J. Edgar Hoover, the U.S. government used to be intensely corrupt. What Hoover did was create an FBI which cannot be bribed. If you try to bribe an FBI man, he will agree to take the bribe. He'll film you giving it to him, and then he'll arrest you right after you've handed the money and he has the evidence. Well, there's no one in Ukraine like that, and what Ukraine needs to do is create an operation like the FBI of people who are so dedicated that they cannot be bribed.
According to the authoritative Russian weekly magazine Kommersant Vlast, in January 2009, Vladimir Putin reminded Yulia Tymoshenko about a certain criminal case connected with her business past, namely the verdict passed by the Moscow Garrison Military Court on Russian Army General Georgy Oleinik. In 2002, Oleinik was sentenced to 5 years for embezzling almost $323 million, the worth of the construction materials, which UESU was to supply to the Russian Defense Ministry, but never did. The books were closed on the case, but the debt remained unpaid. According to a source with the Ukrainian Prosecutor General Office, Putin may have blackmailed Tymoshenko with that skeleton in the closet, and she agreed to the exorbitant $450 per 1,000 cubic meters of Russian natural gas. We have never had a binge like we had on those January days, the Russian negotiators told the Kommersant Vlast. We were celebrating not just a good bargain, but inevitable and very substantial geopolitical concessions which Kyiv would have to make as soon as the discount under the previous contract expired in 2010 and the price of gas for Ukraine grew up to $450, writes the magazine. The debt owed by UESU was shifted onto Ukrainian taxpayers. But why do they have to pay for corrupt officials' fraudulent deals? In February 1999, the Ukrainian Prosecutor General presented documents to the parliament exposing the former prime minister's crimes of corruption, and the lawmakers stripped him of MP immunity. With criminal charges brought against him, Lazarenko fled abroad to escape justice, but the hand of law tracked him down. What happened to Tymoshenko then?
Lazarenko and Tymoshenko both ran for the same party ticket in 1998 in Ukrainian parliamentary elections. And since then, Tymoshenko has really been a major political figure in Ukraine, and as such has tried to distance herself from Lazarenko.
In February 2001, Tymoshenko was arrested on corruption charges. She built a strong line of defense, calling the criminal case against her a political order from authorities, and launched an active campaign against President Leonid Kuchma. Going out after several weeks in custody, Tymoshenko became the leader of the National Salvation Forum, and later the leader of the opposition faction in the parliament.
So it's not so much that Yulia Tymoshenko has moved from business into politics as that she has been in politics all along, and she is finally succeeding in becoming the chief politician.
Several senior American political figures, including Madeleine Albright, had regular meetings with Yulia Tymoshenko, and we're counting on her to help the Ukraine, in its transition to democracy. So we know that the political interests of the United States government at the highest level probably didn't want Yulia Tymoshenko drawn into the Lazarenko case.
On the 7th of May 2004, U.S. federal judge Martin Jenkins repealed all the charges against Tymoshenko within the Lazarenko case.
So there's a very tight, close relationship between all three of these. What's interesting is that Pavel Lazarenko turns against Kuchma, and as a member of the oligarchy begins to try to wrest control of the government from Kuchma's hand. Later, after Pavel Lazarenko leaves Ukraine and is on trial in the United States, Yulia Tymoshenko plays a similar role with Kuchma. She goes from being an oligarch and a business leader with a controversial background fraught with corruption allegations to a leading member of the Orange Revolution and a woman championing the rights of the people of Ukraine against the power of the oligarchs and the government.
Successful in going from a figure that many people saw as engaged in shady business practices to being this new populist and defender of the Ukrainian people. It's really remarkable political transformation, and I think her winning personal style is a big reason for her success.
Actually, historically, charisma has declined greatly in importance. I mean, you still have to have some. The thing about Yulia Tymoshenko is this famous thing she did with her hair.
I mean, it just shows, like the extent to which you can reinvent yourself, even changing your ethnicity and your language. I mean, it's all politics, it's all image, it's all very Hollywood.
I was thrilled by the Orange Revolution. I thought that was a very exciting time. The aftermath seemed to be somewhat of a letdown and a return to sort of business as usual.
But she herself had her own ambitions, and that led to a big fight between her and the leader of the ethnic Ukrainians. And the result was that his government was unable to operate effectively due to internal squabbling. And as a result, nothing really much was accomplished in terms of creating a better situation in the Ukraine.
In word and deed, this slogan of the Orange Revolution remained just a declaration of intent. Since Ukraine became independent in 1991, none of its governments had taken on systemic reforms, and it was only in 2010 when things started moving. The new government laid a foundation for comprehensive economic and social reforms, embarked on practical projects, and clamped down on corruption. Since the anti-corruption law took effect on the 1st of July 2011, more than 4,000 officials of various ranks were dismissed for abusing office in their private interests. Many found themselves in the dock. One of them is Vasyl Volga, former head of the State Finance Market Regulation Commission. He was indicted of having received a bribe in the amount of $500,000. After a trial that lasted for almost 10 weeks, the Ukrainian court proved the facts of economic crimes committed by Tymoshenko. The defendant played the same old game from her own criminal political experience, claiming that authorities were repressing the opposition. For years, Tymoshenko had steered clear of justice, using politics as a cover-up for her business interests. Pavlo Lazarenko, unlike her, did face the music. In August 2006, the court of San Francisco sentenced him to a prison term of 9 years. Lazarenko still pleads innocent, but few believe him. Tymoshenko does not only defy the court verdict, she calls it a Stalin-era political reprisal, and her claims are echoed by influential politicians in the West. Why? Why is the conviction of a corrupt Ukrainian official by the US court lauded as a triumph of democracy and justice? And why do they call similar verdicts passed in Ukraine reprisals against political opponents? Isn't this a policy of double standards? They say history always repeats itself. On the 5th of August, the day Tymoshenko was arrested, just a few hundred supporters went out to protest on Kyiv streets. On the 11th of October, the day the guilty verdict was pronounced, there were a lot more protesters, but still fewer than in 2001, let alone 2004 when the opposition leader enjoyed nationwide support. Perhaps the people are simply sick and tired of political demagoguery and want stability and real changes in their life. They are surely wiser than politicians think they are. They know what a true leader should be like, whether in Ukraine or the United States or any other civilized country.
If you took integrity, honesty, and a little bit of modesty, I think you'd have a pretty good recipe for a leader.
I think you have to have a certain amount of philanthropy to go into politics and be honest about it. And I think that if you view it as a way to further yourself or make money, I think you're just coming from a different place than you should be, and I think it's just fundamental.
I feel that you shouldn't follow a person or use them as a role model or anything if you have certain doubts in your heart or mind, conscious, that this person might not be telling me the right thing. I mean, but I like them. They're my star hero. I go along with that. You shouldn't do that. I think that's where we cross the line at.
You may wonder what popcorn has to do with it. Remember the guy who built a house with stolen money, the house that Lazarenko bought later? That guy fed popcorn to sheep in the national park. They came to him for popcorn, and he shot them. We saw a very graphic analogy. So why do we still follow bad leaders? Why should we eat this political popcorn?